So, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, everyone knows the God of War is getting incredibly strong reviews. Critically, which is, whatever. I don't think it really matters that much. So first I need to talk a little bit about what God of War used to be. God of War is a story about a guy named Kratos who was born of a human mother and a god father. His father is Zeus. A bunch of stuff happens. He becomes a general in the Spartan army, and he goes on to fight all of the Greek gods, eventually killing Zeus. So by the end of the third one, it became evident that it was getting a lit on the stale side. There was nothing left to tell. Kratos kills Zeus. He's killed all the Greek gods. There's nothing else to do. To be totally honest, I didn't play God of War Ascension. Just didn't. Honestly, I only played a few of the games, like the first one, the third one, and I think I played Ghost of Sparta when it was released on the PS3. So anyway, he's just a merciless guy. He ends up becoming a god after he kills Ares in the first game, and just seek hellbent on revenge. So then the new game takes place many years later when Kratos is quite aged, and he has a new wife and a new child, and the setting is more RPG-ish, semi-open world, and it's very, very story-driven. I'll tell you what, I don't get choked up from a lot of stories. I'm a pretty similar guy in the way that Kratos was. I identify a lot with how he was. He was just, as a child, we grew up with nothing, surrounded by violence and substance abuse and a church that condemned me and people that were constantly judging me. My mother turned me into a monster when I needed to be one. And I can relate a lot to how Kratos is in this game because he's a dad and he's trying to push that side back and down and control his anger and control everything and raise his child. And as you progress through the game, in this game he leaves the Spartan realms and he goes into more of the Norse gods section of the world. And you run in, they talk about Odin and Thor and Balder and Magni and a lot of really cool Norse stuff, Valhalla and Helheim and all that stuff. And it was just it's a really interesting story. And watching how Kratos interacts with his son and teaches his son how to control his anger was really, really refreshing for me as a parent to see just how that is, where I don't feel like I'm the only parent in the world struggling with two dualities, where there's a monster side and there's the human, adult-ish side. And I feel like, I strike parallels between that and how Joey is. And truth be told, it's probably one of the best games I've played in 5 years. Easily 5 years. It's amazing. Of course, it looks great. It's open world, but it's not like those cookie cutter open world game. It's not like Fable version 3.0. There's a lot more thought put in. I mean, it's not like you're fucking playing Skyrim for the 300,000th time. It's a lot more interesting to me. There's linear parts, there's non-linear parts. You know, the combat is much different now. It's more calculated. I wouldn't say it's hard, because it's not hard. I mean, once you play the game, I'd say in the first hour, if you are anything decent at video games, you pretty much got it down. I mean, it's not difficult. It's very, very much a satisfying combat system, because you can throw his axe everywhere and call it back, and you know, like certain enemies, you know, you can use your axe on, some of them you can't. You have like two distinct ways of doing damage. You have your damage itself, and then you have like a stun bar. So the axe does more like raw damage, but if you don't use your axe, you use your hands, you can build the stun bar faster. Your son has a bunch of different things he can do, but it's not overwhelming. It's a pretty basic combat system. And I read online somewhere that somebody said that the skill system was confusing. I have no idea why. I have no clue why it was confusing for people. It's pretty bare bones. You get experience points, and you can learn a skill. You level up your axe, you learn more skills. It's pretty basic stuff. Different materials needed to, you know, improve different gear. There's the gear sets. Very much adopted from Diablo, I would say, for the most part. It was an amazing game, through and through. And to be honest, it's one of these things where I'm like reluctant to finish it, because once it's over. But not only is it worth every red cent that I paid for the game, and I got the collector's edition or whatever, the $70 digital deluxe edition or whatever. It was a really good time, and I'm like halfway through. There's a lot of side quests and things, and you really care about the characters, and you can feel the emotional bond between father and son. And I think that if you're a parent, even if you don't have a son, that you can identify with that. And it feels like God of War, like we grew up, and the game grew up with us. As we grew up and became parents, so did Kratos. And that, to me, was really an interesting parallel. You know, it's just a really good time. There's some extra stuff, and you know, the ending, from what I hear, is, you know, very open-ended for a sequel, and I'm sure we're going to get, you know, more sequels, because you don't ever meet Odin, you don't meet Thor, you know, like that never happens. So there's going to be a time to meet the other gods, you know, and all that stuff. And the ending was very emotional. And again, I haven't beat it, so I don't know what the ending is yet, but I assume that's what it is, you know, very emotional ending. And it made me feel really good, because like whatever you pay for the game is what you get. Like, there's no DLC, you know, there's not going to be any download content. And it's definitely worth the price tag. And it's proof that you can make a good single player game that has everything that is in the game available to you there. You know, it's amazing to me that this game, and I mean, it's getting like rave reviews. I mean, I haven't seen reviews as good since Zelda's Breath of the Wild. And you know, we have a lot of the Xbox community like lashing out against it, you know, trying to defend their console. And it's not about a console right now. I mean, yes, it's a PlayStation exclusive. Okay. It's not Sony's fault that Microsoft isn't developing anything worth a shit. That's not their fault. And I'm not saying, I mean, I have friends that play Xbox. Like, yeah, it sucks, but what it is. I mean, I initially, you know, when it came down to last gen with the PS3 era, I went with PlayStation because that's where my friends were playing. They were playing on a PS3. So of course I'm going to get a PlayStation, and it just made more logical sense to go with PS4. And I knew so many people that were with Microsoft for that era and swapped to PlayStation. So, there's people that like saying negative things about it, and it's not perfect. Of course not. Anything's perfect. But so what? It doesn't have to be perfect. I feel like the combat gets kind of bland. Like once you know how to fight each monster, that's it. It's really basic stuff. But there's different ways to approach battle, and I feel like they really introduce things on a, and it feels very much like what kind of game? There are games like, I want to say like Darksiders or something like that, where like you'll go in an area and then there'll be an obstacle, but you don't have the item to destroy that obstacle, so you have to continue and then come back. And say like Devil May Cry kind of, but like you go on, so you're like, there's like areas like these blue roots, and you're like, oh shit, I don't have anything that will break these roots. So then you go back and you're like, oh, now I have the thing to beat the root. So then you go back and you do that, and then it unlocks more areas. There are, really cool stuff like fighting Valkyries, and hard. Some of the optional fights are way harder than the story fights. I mean, like fucking brutal. Like skinning your teeth hard. But you can, once you get the gear and stuff, and you kind of learn the fights and how they work and how each enemy is killed, it's not that bad. So I really enjoyed God of War. I think, in my humble opinion, that it's worth every review it's gotten. Like right now it's sitting at like a 95 on Metacritic, and it's got like a 9.2 on its user scores. And you can just open YouTube and you can find all these people that are just loving the game, and they should. I mean, I haven't played a game where I don't want to finish it because I don't want it to be over in a long time, and that, it's helped me a lot. It's helped me with the struggle I go through with my son, with trying to cope with, my left hand wants to kill somebody and my right hand doesn't, and I'm constantly doing that back and forth. Like every day I don't know who's gonna win. And when I was a kid, it was always like, oh, the devil's trying to get to you. Like, no, fuck you, and fuck your stupid religion. It's not the devil. The fact is that life made me who I am and made me the person I had to be. Holiday was no joke. I didn't have a choice. And I know that everybody that grew up down there didn't grow up the way I did, and I can respect that. But my mother turned me into the monster I needed to be. And a big part of me hates her for what she did. Another part of me realizes that's how it had to be. So, when I stare at my son and I worry that he's gonna be like me. Played a game like God of War where you kind of see the same things happening with Kratos and his son. I don't know. It helps in a weird way. So, but that's kind of like all I got as far as it's not. I wouldn't say it's an overly complex, deep game like Final Fantasy Tactics. It's not a long game. I mean, it's 30 hours, maybe 40. I've started it over like 3 times because I just don't want to finish it. But if you have a PS4 and you want something that's going to play for a while, I'd say God of War is a good bet. It's very RPG, action RPG-ish, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And the voice actors are all really good too. So, alright guys, so that's all I got for God of War. I don't have anything on the docket coming up. I don't really know what game I'm going to do next. Right now, I'm trying to finish a time perfect file for Final Fantasy IX, which is taking up a lot of time. And basically, I have to get to the end of the game in 12 hours to get a certain weapon, and then I have to make sure I do that without missing any missable items. So this year we're going to have a lot of good games coming out. Last of Us 2 is coming. There's another game called Detroit. I guess I didn't play the first one, so I don't really know. But do yourself a favor, and if you're a gamer, try to pick up some obscure games and think really hard before you buy download content. Think about it, because it's going to influence the market right now. We have EA under a microscope. We have loot boxes getting illegalized in other countries. There's a lot of really good things happening in the gaming world, but you got to think about it before you spend money on these things. Think about, if you buy a game and it has download content, do you support the developers? Do you support what the game did? Not what it can be. Think about what the game did. Like, I fully support games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, because they finally gave us a Dragon Ball game that's good. There's been hundreds of these games, and they've all sucked. Terrible. Dragon Ball FighterZ is great. And I bought the season pass for that game because I fully support that. So, think long and hard before you buy DLC, before you buy a game. And it's like Shadow of the Tomb Raider is coming out in, I think it's September-ish. So think about it. Before you buy a game, think about what it is. Think about what you want to do with it. And the same goes for movies. Because guess what? If you go and spend money, they're going to keep making it. They're going to keep doing it, and it's never going to change. And that's not something that we need in this world. We don't need these developers seeing like, oh, we sold just as much download content as we did in game sales for, whatever. We'll just keep half-assing games and giving them download content later. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. So, alright guys, well that's all I got. Let's talk to you guys next time. I'll keep you guys posted on what I'm going to be doing next. I'm not sure what that will be yet.